Well, I think, the local showcases that we participate in, aren't much longer in time frame than, going to ASHP and renting a booth at ASHP. It's about, 3.5 hours long. When we have a resident or prospective resident that comes to visit us at ASHP, it's a little bit, I'm not going to say it's more meaningful, but it actually tells me that there's a lot of other programs to choose from in that room. I don't know if you've been to an ASHP mid-year.
I have, yeah.
Yeah, so you kind of know the scope of what we're talking about, right? There's huge rooms. And if a resident is going to stop by and spend some valuable time with us, that's really meaningful. We collect their information, and if we're able to connect with them afterwards. I kind of break the ice and say, look, call me. I like the phone call. I know I'm a little old school that way. Email obviously is great, but we all get bombarded by emails all the time. And I think students they feel inhibited picking up the phone and calling the program director. And I think that's, when it comes to residency, when you're going to have a very close working relationship, with, the program director, with the preceptors, picking up the phone is a little bit more, I think, in line with, residency selection than any other kind of way to communicate with people. So, I do think that the national scope tells me more about the interest of a resident versus a local. A local, you can make your rounds and visit every one of those tables typically, by the time the thing's all said and done. Nationally, you have your places that you've already pre-selected that you want to go visit. And if we're on that list, that tells me that you're, that much more interested in our program.
I love to meet all the candidates. However, we usually have a lot of interest in our program, which is great. We love to see a lot of people come. And the residents are always out in front. And I'm kind of hanging back to see if there's anyone that's not able to speak to someone. I think the residents are prepared, and usually the candidates really mostly want to hear from the residents. What's your residency experience like? They can read about our program on the web. We have brochures. They can get the questions answered from the residents. But, I do like to see the candidates. I think one of your questions was, if you've seen them at a smaller showcase, so maybe like the local one, and then do I want to see them again? I think it's nice if they just, wave or, talk to one of the residents. But it's nice. I see most of them try to be very considerate, because the candidates that are from other states that don't have the opportunity to interact with us, interact with the residents, get to know our site a little better. They're very aware of that. And so they may just make their presence known to let us know that they're interested, but not hang around and take up time from someone else that may need more of that interaction and insight into our program.
I'll be honest, I actually haven't participated in mid-year in many years, because I found that it's just there's too many people. And I don't know that it's helpful. I'm just going to be honest. I don't know that it's super helpful as a program director. More so, I think it probably is more beneficial from a student perspective. So I feel like it's a good place for, as a student or a candidate, to go, yeah, I'm not sure I would jive with that, or all those residents look really upset, or they're not super excited, or the things that they're doing don't sound like things that I would want to do. But from a program perspective, I think it's really hard to go, oh yeah, I remember meeting you, in such and such. What I have been doing more of is kind of smaller group, even individual kind of sessions ahead of time. And that I think is super helpful. I was the PGY2 director for our AmCare program for a couple years too. And so that was really helpful for PGY2 programs, is doing kind of those smaller, and that definitely helped. But I would say it is challenging large scale things to really get to know somebody in a hot minute, right?
Yeah, so I feel like I have more time to talk about the program with candidates, and then also answer questions at local meetings because it's less crowded. It's more of an intimate setting, less distraction. So I really value and remember those candidates at local meetings. At national meetings, you have to be a little more coordinated. So, that's when we utilize headshots to remember, hey, we talked to this person and they actually applied for the program. But overall, I think national meetings are great, but it's not as intimate as a local meeting. So I think it's more meaningful if I meet you at a local meeting than mid-year per se.
Well, like I said, and again, I think the opportunity's there, but I totally understand if residents aren't able to make, especially not so much this year with ASHP, but I know that there's a financial burden that students would have, if they need to travel out and do an in-person ASHP meeting. So I totally get if they're not able to do the mid-year. The local programs, they depending on when they're scheduled, the students may be on a rotation that doesn't allow them the time, or just logistically they might have to work or whatnot. So yeah, I mean, I don't judge based on whether or not a student's able to drop by my table. Now, if they're at the event and they don't stop by, well, that's another story. But if they're not able to make it at the event as a whole, I would say email, phone, that's totally, fine. And like I said, I'm the program director. Mm-hmm. So, people say, oh my God, he's a no, I mean, it's my, this is my program. I'd love to hear from, residents or students, that are interested and have any questions. So we also do a open house too. So that gives me another added opportunity to interact with myself and our residents and our preceptors.
Usually it's through the residents. The residents have all of their emails on the website, and if they have questions, if they reach out to the residents to answer like not a personal question, but kind of a personal to them, like, what has your experience been like? Were you able to get the rotations you needed? What is staffing like? What are the people like? Kind of trying to get a good feel for our program and what they would experience here, and the residents then pass that information on to me. I also have candidates reach out directly to me. If they ask a lot of those sorts of questions, I just forward them on to the residents so they can answer. Otherwise, I do my best to try to get back to them, but it's a lot of people that could be contacting me, so I try to fan it out so that they get a response. But really what it comes down to is their application. So everything that they put in forecast, their CV, their letter of intent, their letters of recommendation, those are the things that are going to make them stand out. So what they've already done, it's nice to meet the candidates and get to see their personality. But when you have a lot of applications, you're looking for those candidates that are going to stand out on paper first.
I think sending an email and asking pretty much the question, what's the, if there's a possibility, what will happen usually for me, I'll get an email where someone will ask for, either they have specific questions, or maybe they actually want to talk to me. Personally, I will try and, I'll either say, sure, you can, email me your questions. I would much prefer to just talk to somebody. The amount of time that it takes to type up a response to something, I feel like you could very quickly talk to someone. So my intentions will be to probably schedule some shorter opportunities and sessions to meet with people if they have more specific questions about the program. So I think just emailing and then the other thing is just also being patient, because remembering that a program is going to get probably a lot of inquiries, and so being able to kind of sift through those can be a little bit challenging. So But that's what I would suggest.
I would say, everyone can't afford to go to the local or national meetings, and that's completely understandable. For me, I really like if students reach out to me directly via email. And then now that we're using more platforms such as Skype or Zoom, I offer short meetings with candidates just to answer any of their questions that they may have. And I always like when they ask questions that I can answer that they can't get that from a website or a brochure. That tells me that you're really interested in the program.
I saw that question, and I guess, my main thing is it's not the number of times that we see a student, it's the quality of the interaction, right? So again, just like an interview, right? If you have a student that, is just really coming up to say hi and introduce themselves, that's fine. That's good. I enjoy that, ability to kind of go out and meet my colleagues. But I think if you're really looking to have that as your future, part of your career path, come prepared, right? Yeah. I mean, have a list of like what you want to know about a pro. You're going to use that time with us there to help you decide whether or not you're going to apply to that program. So, and that's really why we're all there. We want to meet the students that are coming out of school that are going to be the best fit, for what we offer. And on the other side of that coin, we want the residents, the prospective students, to use that time to help them decide which one of these, thousands of programs, if you will, are going to best meet their needs. Mm-hmm. So use that time, to your advantage. Again, drive that conversation. Make it a two-way street. It's not just me having like this one-way conversation. It goes both ways. So I think the students would be best served to come to those booth interactions. And again, it's not, Joey visited us 5 times, so he must be real. No, it's about that quality of interaction. And if you have a reason to visit a booth again, that's fine too. If you have a follow-up, come, with that. Oh yeah, if you remember, I talked to you the first time, and I remember, I had this question that I couldn't remember I just remembered. So, but again, it's not the number of times for us, it's the quality of those interactions. So
I feel like if we met face to face like once, and then followed up via email, I think is probably appropriate. Otherwise, it might be a bit much. I'm trying to think of it's hard to say because I haven't done a lot of the national showcases in a couple of years, but I think 2 different touch bases is probably appropriate. And then I think the other thing is what are you wanting out of the touch base, right? Mm-hmm. So do you actually have valid questions that you need answered? Because that's one thing. But is it more just to be like, I'm here, pay attention to me? That's a different thing, right?
I would say if I had to give someone grace, more than 2 times. I feel like, make the first attempt for contact meaningful. So, express your interest, ask the questions that you need answered. And then, based on my responses, if you have a follow-up question, then that's fine for a second form of communication. But if it's past 2 times, that's a bit too much and excessive.